That's something that wasn't possible before.
We wanted to create transparency, but we didn't want it to create another silo.
So it does seem that OriginTrail is at the cusp of something big.
Fight the good fight. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the On TRAC podcast. I'm Christina, and today I'm joined with the entire crew.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, hi.
Hey, hello.
Say hi, say
Nice to
hi.
see you again. Hello.
So our beautiful founders are here today, and we're here. I'm sorry.
So roll with it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
People know it's true.
We're all here together today, and we're ready to dive into some really cool, new, and exciting updates from OriginTrail. And before we jump in, I'd like to give a huge thank you to our community for giving us and sending us questions, and also for bearing with us during the flu season that we've been hit with. So thanks for that. We see you and we truly appreciate you. And without further ado, let's dive in. Tomáš, can you tell us a story to start things off?
Yeah, I guess the best story I know is the origin story of OriginTrail. So it's been a few years, I'll say, where Žiga and Branimir and myself, we kind of kicked off with a fairly simple premise that transparency is a good thing. That if we have more transparency, we could create impactful movement for those that are doing the things well, and really highlight them in how they're doing so in whatever field that they're working with. And actually, we started off in physical supply chains. We started off in the food industry, something that's by definition pretty close to all humans, because all of us have to eat at some point. That's kind of how it goes. But it's not just about eating, right? It's like what do you put in your body? And transparency here is very important. And this is what we saw when we started off. Is okay, if we actually create something where transparency of food products in that particular example could be highlighted, then those producers that do their job well can be better off in the market compared to some other ones. And actually, the things that we started working on back then are still in shops today. They're still thriving in that sense and still using transparency as one of their core value propositions to showcase the strength of their products. When we observed basically some of the things that as we were introducing transparency in the physical supply chains, there were certain recurring themes that started to happen. And one very important recurring theme that came up was we are becoming the aggregators of the data, which wasn't ours, but still we were kind of like the brokers of it, right? And this wasn't really the intention that we ever kind of started off with. We wanted to create transparency, but we didn't want it to create another silo. Actually, this was what we were fighting against. And in order to kind of remove ourselves from the equation, but still achieve the same impact, we started looking at, okay, like what's out there? What can we use? And that was our first touch point with the decentralized systems. So it was pretty cool to see that you could send some financial assets from one side of the world to the other. And we thought, it'd be cool if you could do the same thing with data assets, so that it's not, there's no need for us in between, but rather we would have this decentralized system that would make it happen. In a way, we couldn't unsee that, right? So it was really, really a powerful thing. And there's a first twist to the story that triggered basically an evolution phase of OriginTrail. We went from someone who kind of wanted to do things in, let's say, centralized way, a startup company, towards an ecosystem, right? That was around 2018. And we've basically more or less open sourced everything we've done so far, which was a lot to do with the cool technology of knowledge graphs, which you'll hear a lot about going forward. And we've created something that's called a decentralized knowledge graph. So basically took the technology that Google was using to map out the World Wide Web, and they did all these cool things to kind of organize the data on the internet. And Netflix is using it today, and Amazon for mapping out products, and so many different legacy companies, giants. Well, we said, instead of just creating knowledge graphs internally, let's do one decentralized version of it, where anyone could keep ownership of their data and connect it together. So that was pretty cool because it allowed us to then create an ecosystem where much bigger organizations felt comfortable engaging with it. So you would have global giants like Walmart, Home Depot, Costco, Swiss Federal Railways, many, many other people with physical products as a part of their business, just feeling comfortable sharing their data in a trusted way using this decentralized knowledge graph, which was, pretty much since we started on in 2018, it wasn't a thing that you would see in the Web3 space. There wasn't a lot of these types of adoption, and to some point, we still don't see it as much as we would have liked to. But really, the DKG was an evolutionary phase in the first iteration in 2018, all the way until its 8th version that we'll be speaking about today. That was like a very, very powerful component, the central component of how we believe the data should be managed in the future. And I'll wrap up, I guess, with another twist in the story, on the origin story of OriginTrail, which is the next evolutionary phase, which came maybe now, 3.5 years ago, something like that, where we saw the drop of, obviously, like neural models became really, really powerful. And all of a sudden, people had like two questions, like when they started using something like ChatGPT or similar, they'd be like, okay, is this thing going to take my job? And the second thing was, how do I trust the data that's coming out? So for us, it was another trigger saying, okay, all these questions that we've heard before, how do I trust the data about the food products I'm buying? How do I trust the data that my supplier is actually doing what they tell me? How do I trust that this product can enter my country? All of these things have to do with trust and transparency, which was our home turf, right? So in a way, it was like, okay, we've been training all the time to position this technology now for really what AI has unveiled is a massive, massive, massive problem. And what we're going to be looking at today is how OriginTrail went from a concept solution for one producer of food products to a really powerful backbone for global trade towards internet scale component covering any data in the AI age. So that kind of evolutionary phase have been very, very powerful, and we felt them every single time that they've happened. And we continue to see it, how they now enter towards the mainstream field. And I'm really excited to kind of be at this chapter of Origin in the OriginTrail story, because it's a very, very exciting one. It's the one that promises by far the biggest impact of what we've ever had the opportunity to work on together. And I'm, of course, super psyched to have all the team of Trace Labs, the core developers of OriginTrail, everyone in OriginTrail ecosystem, which is growing. Another thing we'll be talking about today, to be a part of this chapter. And looking forward to what the future brings. But I don't know if it's like waiting for a happy end story to start off with. And I hope we'll hint to some of those in the conversation today. Sorry to take off so much time for the beginning.
Don't worry about it. And speaking of stories being happily ending, we do have a surprise coming up. So make sure you stay till the end. And yes, I have to agree. It's really amazing to see these kinds of efforts taking more and more space, especially within OriginTrail ecosystem, that incites trust and verifiable knowledge. But we'll get to that more later in this podcast. So now we have some tech talk to do. Thank you again for joining us today, Brana. DKG V8, the foundation, it's powering all of this. The DKG version 8, it's more than an upgrade. It's also, like I said, the foundation for everything that's coming up next. What's now possible that with V8 that wasn't perhaps possible before?
That's a great question, and thanks for having me, Christina. V8 has been a very big update, and the update has brought first and foremost scalability. So what is possible to do today is to cover the entire internet with the decentralized knowledge graph. So that's why we call it the internet scale DKG, which wasn't the case just a few months ago when we were at the previous version. And we might mention some numbers, but ultimately we got more than 100x throughput just by releasing V8.0, optimizing a lot of things, but also improving outside of scale. But scalability is also kind of a consequence of it, improving the way the knowledge graph is also organized. So because of this, we get some incredible new things, such as something we're working on right away, which is support for Amazon Neptune, for example, which is one of the best, if not the best, enterprise knowledge graph technology, and that we've on the previous podcast we witnessed the experts from their team, so we're working with them together. That's something that wasn't possible before. There's also additional elements that are opened up by this scalability, which enables actually running the DKG on any device. So that's where what we call the edge, the DKG edge comes in, where you are able to run something called edge nodes. So an edge node currently possible to run on a computer, like a laptop or a server, but in the future also on a mobile device, will enable you to plug into the network while retaining ownership of your knowledge on your device, and having the ability to use this powerful AI without compromising ownership, without compromising privacy, and actually using it in a scalable way. So that's something that wasn't there before V8 came out. And there was also plenty of improvements in terms of just the way things function under the hood. Each of, like Tomáš said, the journey from all the way to the start is always full of learnings. There's so many things that you can only really learn if you apply the technology. And that is, you either apply it in some context, so you see people using it, and then you learn, this is actually how people want to use it, such as, for example, pair nets or edge nodes. And then you iterate and improve, or you load it up, like you hit some milestones in terms of scale that just reveal things that you need to improve. And I'm happy that every time we had a major upgrade, this was the case. And but most importantly, this time it was very much needed. There was a lot of demand for scale, and that the previous version 6 couldn't just go with. So we had to prioritize scalability in order for everybody who wants to use the DKG to be able to do so. And we're still hitting some very good scalability records. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's a lot of new stuff, and actually more to come.
Yeah, it's pretty massive scalability. That's for sure. Are there any projects or companies that are already building in this new scale?
Plenty, actually.
I mean, you mentioned AWS. How does that really relate to the entire process?
Yeah, so AWS, or Amazon Web Services, is one of the major internet cloud providers, and used by a lot of different enterprises. So enterprises pretty much pick one of them, like it's either Google or Amazon or Oracle, depending on what is the preferred choice for a certain company. So enabling support natively for Amazon Cloud with tight integrations makes it much more easier to adopt for such companies, because they might have these as conditions, basically. Azure also, Microsoft Azure, which was actually the first environment where we deployed the highly available node back several years ago. So now it's all going also into the direction of AWS, and it's really incredible to be able to work with the folks from their team directly, being supported by pretty much the best builders of knowledge graph technology, because actually Amazon bought the biggest and the most highly scalable knowledge graph at the time, which was BlazeGraph, which is actually used in OriginTrail even today, an open source engine, production ready engine that's actually behind Wikidata and a lot of these big knowledge graphs. While at Amazon, for example, if you look at Neptune, it's under the hood of Alexa, of the Netflix knowledge graph, for example. So that this technology is very soon going to be able to be used with OriginTrail, which enables any enterprise who is looking to use Amazon services very easy to integrate with it.
I think the whole tuning phase was like loaded so far with these types of tests that attest to internet scale capabilities of V8. And like this whole mainstream validation of helping the whole AI systems as a whole to go from hallucinations to actually trusting the source of information, to go from IP infringements to actually respecting data ownership and having data verifiability. These things are, in a way, if we want to move from AI being used in trivial ways, I said trivial in like with I don't know, parenthesis, is that the word?
Yeah.
Yes, with parenthesis, because it could help you be more creative in writing tasks or something like that. But if we want AI systems to help us on mission critical tasks for humanity, any enterprise grade deployment, any vertical you can think of, whether it's supply chain or it's healthcare or it's any third one, it's going to be, you're going to need that assurance that things function, and you're going to need infrastructure that can support it at scale at which these systems operate. So what we saw in this tuning, like we amped it up, not just us, also other, right? I think folks also have seen that we have new entrants into the ecosystem, which are with a very, very big vision, like umanitek, which also was announced in this tuning period as a venture that's launching. And it really goes after this large scale vision of ensuring that you have data ownership, that your IP isn't getting infringed for data assets at internet scale, right? And here, these different tests have really been obviously informing some of the decisions on what to focus, like AWS, like, do better query speeds, whether it's, okay, how much knowledge assets do we need to put through in a given hour or a given day or a given week or whatever. So all these different tests in this tuning period, I find it so important because we need to have answers to these questions. Yeah. Otherwise, like, we cannot create something just on hopeful thinking that we're gonna hit it right. And all these things are getting tested day in, day out to ensure that whatever comes out of this tuning phase is actually something that can be used, and as it is already currently being used. So this also hasn't started in V8, obviously. Like, it was a part of V6 efforts, and V6 informed how V8 should look like. And now this tuning period is kind of solidifying some of these things. And yeah, so I'm like on the adoption side, super looking forward to how tuning phase can help support the future mainstream stuff. And yeah, umanitek also being one very important pillar in making that happen.
Yeah, the tuning phase was absolutely something that was on our community's mind as well.
I don't know, like, Brian, do you have any more like tuning thoughts on the technical side of? I know we mentioned like AWS and some of the is there anything that we have maybe glanced over in terms of the learnings that we saw so far?
Improvements also.
Yeah, I mean, we can go a lot wide or short. I'll try to keep it short. We have one of the things that might not be that obvious, but it's quite obvious when you sort of zoom out a little bit, is one of the learnings is that which is the best blockchain to be used with the DKG. At the moment, it's by vote of utility, obviously NeuroWeb. You can see that the vast majority of knowledge assets and staking activities happening on NeuroWeb, which is quite a very important learning, in my opinion, because it also has driven us into the direction of prioritizing what is necessary for NeuroWeb, so that improvements on the level of usage and scalability and decentralization are the things that are basically prioritized in the roadmap. So, for example, I will probably be touching on that in a bit, but the staking would be much easier if it would be easier to bridge to NeuroWeb. Currently, there's a teleport system. It's functioning, it's safe, but it's slow. So what we really need to do is to enable the token flow to be very easy. And we've been working on that actually for quite some time. So finally, within the next period, we will see that in action. We expect a couple of more teleports to happen. But beyond that, we are expecting a fully functional and very secure bridge to be deployed. So yeah, I've been speaking about the bridge, and we have basically concluded that we will be deploying Snowbridge together with the team with the tight collaboration. Snowbridge is one of the most robust bridges within the Polkadot ecosystem, uses the relay chain as a security base. It's not a kind of a custom implementation. It's been in development for a very long time, and it's proven used by major projects like Mythos, for example. So in any case, that's one of the big outcomes of the learning of needing to prioritize NeuroWeb. You mentioned query speed. Query speed is something that a lot of folks have mentioned would be beneficial for highly scalable enterprise systems, so where milliseconds really matter. So we've already applied some improvements and optimizations on the query speed, but there's more to come because we're actually in the 8.1 release train. We're implementing some improvements on the graph structure that would also affect positively query speed. So that's also coming into effect.
Nice.
Noise. Yeah. And then what am I forgetting in terms of learnings? There's been also obviously learnings on the smart contract front. We've covered most of the stuff with the relevant security audits and tests, and basically fixed up a bunch of things, including the bounty submissions that folks were shooting in. So we also worked on making the system more robust. But ultimately, those are basically happening as we go throughout the tuning phase, are improving the whole reliability of the system. So there's you will see things that are coming out very soon, such as the ability to monitor your node better with something called the telemetry, a new version of telemetry, and other various things that improve the transparency of how the DKG works and what you can actually do with it. So bunch of these learnings solidified in the product, essentially.
You mentioned nodes.
Mm-hmm.
How does V8 improve the experience of those staking track as node operators?
Okay, so staking track in the sense of staking has improved a lot since V6, because not only does the UI look better, it's also more informative, and it has a much smoother user experience. It's faster. It's in all kinds of ways. Is the staking from a kind of a staker perspective, be that a node operator or somebody else, it's just, in my opinion, much better than it was, especially from the node operator perspective, because it used to be so that we had another system called Houston that was your kind of node dashboard, which was subsumed by the new staking UI. So that's something that wasn't there before. It's now much more intuitive. Everything is in one place, at least in my opinion. Apart from that, it also made it easier to just operate with your stake. So both delegating, but also re-delegating to other nodes in the network, and that's open for both the node operator and non-node operator delegators. We also worked a lot on improving the installers, so somebody can run the node more easily. Obviously, there's always room to improve, so we're constantly working on this, but there's quite a few improvements there as well. There's also an installer for the Edge node, which enables Edge node is basically a more complex project than the core node, because the core node can be run in a minimal fashion with just one running service, basically. And with the Edge node, it's about 5. So these 5 need to work together, be installed together. Without going into all of the complexities, it used to be very hard at the beginning. Version 1 is never perfect, but this current version is much better, and there will be even more improvements coming on how one can install and run an Edge node or turn an Edge node into a core node, and ultimately monitor what is going on, because this complexity, again, we need transparency into the complexity. So, for example, you as a node runner can understand, I don't know, my memory is running out. I need to upgrade the memory because of scalability increase. So, once we're looking, and this might be something that is worth pointing out, because we're looking for internet scale, the system will have to scale in various ways. It will probably require more hardware, but also more nodes at some point. So V8 also enabled that. We have an ability to essentially infinitely scale V8 with a system of sectors. It's a technical thing that I wouldn't dive deep into right now, but happy to share on some chat in Discord. So hop into Discord if you'd like to chat about this. But in any case, the point is now that over time, as we see more adoption, we obviously are going to see more data, more queries, more demand on the network, and therefore we need to have the ability to detect if the system needs to scale. And when I say we, I mean as a community, everybody who's running a node needs to be responsible for their node, because one key factor of staking or rewards is actually if your node is up. So if your node is overloaded, you need to make sure that you understand what you need to do to get it back up. And
take care of your nodes.
Take care of your nodes.
Update them. Yeah. Take care of
regular
them.
checks.
And regular checks. It's no joke. So, okay, zooming out a tiny bit, I would like to talk about a bigger picture. Can you guys share where adoption is happening? And in that adoption picture, what's next in ecosystem? 𝗙cie, maybe you can take over this one.
Perhaps I'll be shorter if I explain where the adoption isn't happening.
Okay, then go with that.
But since, as Tomáš explained, the OriginTrail has always been based on really performing certain action through, the adoption by working with partners, and then by doing something, actually triggering the information. And then this information was always the guidance for us to keep on developing the OriginTrail protocol and decentralized knowledge graph in a way that it is actually useful and increasingly useful for many different verticals. Tomáš explained how we went from supply chains, from basically physical products to now digital products. And DKG V8 overarchingly has been somehow, let's say, it's been an important exercise so far for us, because we've had a chance to work with one of the biggest players in their respective industries. From Google, even before the development of OriginTrail V8, and now basically using that part of partnership capabilities to also gain exposure for the technology that is being developed within the V8 scope. Then Microsoft is also helping us. So in partnership with them, we're also exposing OriginTrail to many different, very, very high profile users and builders. Actually, we've been invited to Paris to showcase all of the solutions, which is a huge honor. One of the select few companies and ecosystems that are going there in partnership with Microsoft. And then also Amazon. Branimir mentioned that some of their senior builders and graph architects really like the kind of the developer ergonomics of what the decentralized knowledge graph can do in terms of how seamlessly it can be used, but more so how potent and how powerful the decentralized knowledge graph is to really, let's say, unfuck the many different, let's say, industries in terms of bringing knowledge and data from silos, and then connect the data in a machine readable way, which is becoming more and more important recently, as it's not going to be only humans, but increasingly AI agents that are going to need to have an ability to read from different systems. So gone are the days of the PDFs, gone are the days of unstructured data, and hello, OriginTrail world of structured, connected, and trusted data. So these kind of high-profile partnerships, some of the things are really epitomized by some of the use cases and some of the things we've been doing with some of the partners that have just recently joined, at least officially, the ecosystem. We've been working with them for quite a while now. Capital partners and also technical partners that have experience in working with technologies and internet platforms that basically are being used by hundreds of millions of users daily. So this is what internet scale means, and this is the key rationale behind why we had to amp up our efforts to really get the V8 going. And the cool thing is that now V8 is approaching some half a billion knowledge assets recorded, which is a tremendous jump since late December when V8 was launched, and also a huge jump from what the previous technology was capable of churning out some, I believe, 10 million knowledge assets daily. 100,000 knowledge assets daily to 10 million knowledge assets daily. And of course, this number is going to be increasingly growing. So the growth that we are experiencing now, even during this tuning phase, is absolutely staggering. And there would be no such growth without the actual adoption that underpins such a growth, because we always need to trigger an action in order to trigger information, then learn from that information to improve on the V8. And we're really happy. I'm not sure if our secret surprise guest is already here, but it'd be interesting to hear also from the horse's mouth as to why OriginTrail is so important, and where perhaps do we see the technology in the years to come as we go from physical, let's say, assets or real-world assets that OriginTrail has been describing the context around them, to digital assets that are now basically exploding across the internet, also because of the AI becoming the primary producer of knowledge. So it does seem that OriginTrail is at the cusp of something big, and we have an ecosystem, a growing ecosystem that has matured as a substrate to further support the growing adoption.
Yeah, when you look the entire ecosystem and everything you shared already, I mean, I'm part of it now, and being on the inside and being on the outside even some time before, it's truly amazing when you just look at the scalability of the entire thing. It's staggering, really.
Yeah, if I may, if you compare DKG to Ethereum community or Ethereum world has been crying with calls about scalability and also affordability, and it does seem that some ecosystem, even the largest ones, have done very little in terms of advancing scalability and also affordability of the key technologies that can advance decentralization. So we really pride ourselves with bringing OriginTrail DKG to the level where we have done much more than the peer network in the Web3 ecosystem in terms of both affordability and scale with which the technology can operate. And this is the major factor why adoption is possible, because we did not sleep. We constantly developed, and we constantly developed with the actual users that told us what has to be done. So sorry for interjecting.
No, you do that. But speaking of tokens, how does this adoption influence track tokenomics?
So every adoption on OriginTrail network always includes track, because that's just how the utility is expressed. If you want to publish something to the DKG, you're going to have to expend some track. And similarly to how we've seen the kind of increase in the amount of activity on the network, there's also been, can't pull the numbers now out of my sleeve, but there's been a significant increase in also the amount of utility expressed in how much track was put to work in on the network in this tuning period. So that's something that's I think really, in a way, almost like pure in the OriginTrail ecosystem, is that the utility of track always is tied to how the network is being used. There's no like overly complex schemes to kind of achieve some effects which are hard to grasp. It's a clear utility. You want to use the technology, that's basically track is your way of how to do it.
Get on track.
Super simple.
And stay on track.
And on the other side, there's also different ways of how you can use track as participating in securing the network, right? So on the one side is, okay, if you want to use it for the utility of the network, you expense it. And on the other side, but to secure the network, we use it through staking, which we were discussing before. So yeah, I think it's a pretty straightforward message: get on track, stay on track, and use the DKG.
Yeah. Do you have any events going on this year? I mean, what's on the horizon? When you look, we're almost in April right now. How is the rest of the year coming along with events, maybe some meetups?
Yeah, it's packed. I believe I mentioned Paris already in partnership with Microsoft. And then there is a slew of events that are, I believe, important for some of our US community members. New York, possibly also Boston, There's a very interesting conference, Branimir, perhaps you want to speak to that, happening at the MIT, and also in collab with the authors of the decentralized AI at MIT. We might want to do something in relation to.
Let me
to
correct
New
you
York.
right
So
there. It's already
correct me,
arranged.
please. It's already
It's
arranged.
happening. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we literally spoke just like hours ago, so we'll be at the next summit, obviously, because we're
That's
actually
Branimir on the fly coding and hustling while coding.
We've been part of this MIT working group for a couple of months, and which is a great experience. And so we'll be at MIT for sure.
And don't be modest. We were selected as one of the best.
We won the award.
Decentralized AI solutions at the MIT in August last year by
October.
Popular Choice.
Yes, popular choice.
Which is what counts nowadays in the US.
It seems to be, yeah. But not only that, it's there's plenty of things that we're working on together with MIT, where they will also be with us at the event in New York. So it's not just a one-time thing. We're actually constantly engaged through the working group, through events together. And when we say New York, we mean quite a special appearance at the Knowledge Graph conference. One of the elements of it will be actually with the guys from Amazon, but not just Amazon, also Ben Clinch from Orteca, who is one of the best experts in the space. So we will be actually showcasing, giving a workshop on how to build on the DKG together with Amazon, among other things.
I think we can drop the news that there's going to be a DKG On TRAC at the Knowledge Graph conference, which hasn't been announced fully, but stay tuned for this. And there's going to be a lot of very cool program updates for our appearance in New York in the beginning of May. So if you want to start looking at those scheduling plans, it's going to be on Roosevelt Island early May. Between 5th and 8th, I think.
5th and 8th, yes.
Yeah. So to be confirmed, to be communicated on the other details, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. More events?
More events. We'll save them.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Everything we discussed today connects to one and leads to one thing, and that's building a more trusted internet, actually. And speaking of interesting things, remember that at the beginning I promised a little surprise coming up at the end. Well, good things come to those who wait. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you managing partner of AMYP Ventures, Chris Rynning. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
How are you?
Welcome, Chris.
Very good. First time in Slovenia.
Oh.
Very happy to be here.
Chris caught up with the number of countries he's been at.
Yes, I am at 55 and counting.
It's really an impressive number. And truly, it is an honor to both meet you, and this is not the first time we're speaking.
It's the first time we speak in person, I guess, but we've been speaking virtually in the past.
Speaking of our previous speaking, you've been heavily involved in decentralization and Web3 in general. And last time you announced something very interesting, and that's the launch of umanitek. Today, I came prepared with some follow-up questions. So I caught a glimpse of the new website that's been recently launched. And I saw that the company has more than one founder. So it kind of made me think that the mission of the company is larger than it seems at first. Can you give us something more to go on from there?
Yes, very happy to. Well, again, it's great to be here. One of the co-founders, of course, is Trace Labs, the developers behind the OriginTrail. It's a company and a team I've been following for many, many years, although this is my first time here in Ljubljana.
Very well.
I'm working on the pronunciation still. As a co-founder from AMYP Ventures, which is a Piëch Porsche family office investment firm, it's important for us to not only back humans, the right values, people that know what they're doing. In this case, very much in the space of technology development and technology deployment. But we also have a co-founder from Canada, Ethical Labs, that is, I would say, not only specialists in private equity and raising capital, because any new venture will need some fuel on the tank, but they're also specialists in taking technology or products to the market. So in one sense, you can sit and develop a product or a technology, but that needs to be combined with how do you take that product and technology to market. So in this case, we have at least 3 co-founders of umanitek.
At this moment?
At this moment, we have 3 co-founders. And I think the fourth sort of pillar of co-founders we're in the process of bringing individuals from various continents, I would say, to the table, because it is, as you say, a big vision. We have a big vision. We can dive into a little bit of what that is and the problem that we're addressing. But to succeed in addressing this huge challenge that we face with artificial intelligence, we need to have some early success cases, but then rapidly to deploy on several continents. So North America, South America, Middle East, Europe, Africa, Asia, of course. So we're bringing in some more co-founders and founding shareholders or supporters and partners from all over the world, because it's an international vision, it's an international fight, and it's a big global issue.
Yeah, thank you. What as an investor, what made you, let's say, think? What incited you to think about this at this very moment? I know AI has been growing rapidly, and the mistrust has been happening also. But what was that key signal, that moment that drove you into, going into umanitek, collaborating with both 𝗙cie𝗶𝗵 and OriginTrail, Trace Labs? What was that key moment?
Yeah, it's many factors playing into one, and this moment that we're at now. So I think it comes together with people, right? You need humans to co-found. Well, I guess now you can co-found things with alone by yourself with technology, I guess. But for our purpose, it's been important to come together with the right people. So that's a timing aspect. I think in terms of the problem we're addressing, I think last time we spoke, I spoke about this term called the flippening, which I know has been used in many different contexts, but in the context of artificial intelligence and content on the internet, it particularly addresses the time that we're in right now, where more content on the internet is created by bots or AI agents, so non-human generated content, than human content. And that raises a real issue. And the issue is not new. I mean, we have been in first contact with artificial intelligence. Many of you have probably seen the documentary, The Social Dilemma, which I think in a very elegant way raised the first contact with algorithms. And I can go into that a little bit. Is that okay?
For sure.
Yeah, so I think the first contact we had, as was described, I think so well in The Social Dilemma, was this race for the brainstem, or race for attention.
The attention economy.
The attention economy, right? The rise of social media, the rise of influencers, and where the business models of the big technology companies were quite clearly geared towards keeping the user attention and keeping you on the news feed. And the algorithms, the software codes, essentially learned that outrage or even hate or not very nice, conducive, human content necessarily was bringing the most attention, right? We're keeping you scrolling, right? And we got addicted by this. And I think as a result, we got more tribal, internet speech became more hateful. And I think in the process, conversation and debate got more and more difficult, right? Because we got more confirmation bias, you got more drawn into your tribe. And I think as a participant in society, you have to ask, what does that mean, right? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for my family, for my children, so on and so forth? And it is a challenge to society and democracy when debate or conversations break down. So I think that's why this moment really matters, because now AI comes to sort of the second contact with the large language models that we know are challenged with hallucinations. We have generative models now that produces deepfakes and revenge porn and illicit content at a scale that humans can't really catch up with. So we're at this point where it's really hard for anyone to verify what is fake and what is true, what is fact, what is not. And when the technology platforms also at this moment is saying, hey, it's very hard to moderate. We may not even want to moderate content, right? How are you as a parent or as a user of news or media going to verify what is real or not? What is coming out from your prompting with the model? What is in your news feed, right? So I don't think this moment in time is a fight where humans alone can fight machines. I've talked about this in the past, that I think humans will need to work with machines to fight machines. So that's where the human aspect of AI comes in, and why this moment now is so important to use proven technology that works now, like OriginTrail and TraceLab has developed. I mean, I think you're in the generation 8 or 8, generation 8, right? It's proven technology that rapidly can be deployed to address a real world issue now. So that is the moment. And that's why I'm excited to be here in Slovenia.
I mean, those are all beautiful cases of aligned incentives. Like when two or more parties have aligned incentives on such a huge matter, because we've been, closing our eyes on the deep fakes and all the bad content and the good but crap content going on. It's been like crap in, crap out with the regular LLMs. But now it's come to time when, okay, this is not a joke anymore. And both people and the so-called good machines are trying to, play catch up in a way. So I definitely agree. This is really a key moment to act. For early adapters, can you share why could it be good to be an early adapter of umanitek's technology?
Well, I don't want to be too philosophical here, right? But I think we still have time to decide what kind of society we want and what kind of media we want. And so I think there's still time to do something about content and having checks and balances on what is real and what is fake. So I think getting involved at an early stage, you have the opportunity to influence, right? So I think that's what we want to associate with anyone really who wants to fight the good fight, right? And do the right thing. And we think it's only doable through technology. So we are obviously looking for more partners, employees, for funders, for collaborators, because as I hinted to in the beginning, this is a global fight, right? It's It's across all countries, across all generations. And it's a collaborative effort, right? Where private needs to work with public, where NGOs needs to work with for profit, and governments needs to work with other governments, right? And so we're reaching out really very broadly to law enforcement, to parents, to individuals. But I guess in the context of being here, it's developers, right? It's developers and the community that believes in freedom, believes in decentralization, believes in democratic values and doing the right thing. And I think we are, although we want to move globally with this, and we want to be fast and agile and move very fast, right? So we're more like a pirate ship than the Navy, right? I guess in terms of culture, right? So anyone who wants to get on board and fight the good fight, I think now's the time to join umanitek.
Yeah, this kind of fight, I have to concur that shouldn't know any borders or differences. This is a fight that everybody should be a part of to the best of their ability, because I believe, knowing umanitek this short while, that anybody can be just a small part of that light.
Yeah.
Fight the good fight.
Yeah. And I guess, someone said, much smarter than me, said that AI now is the slowest and the dumbest that it will ever be, right? This is just the beginning, right? It's been around for arguably for decades. We've seen this exponential ChatGPT growth in the last couple of years, but it's really, really still at the beginning. And but we do know that 50% of all recognized AI researchers, when they're asked about the future of AI, say that there's more than or around 10% chance it will destroy us, or we can't control it, right? And I think last time we spoke as well, I said if 50% of airplane engineers were saying there's a 10% chance this plane might fall out of the sky, when you wouldn't get on that plane, right? So I think the people that know the most, right? And I'm a layman, I'm a sector neutral investor, right? I don't know a lot about this topic, but I do listen to the developers. I do listen to the people that are at the forefront of developing this. And 50% of them are saying there's a 10% chance it could go wrong. Then I think as governments or NGOs or parents or investors, you need to stop and listen, right?
I think it's a good analogy as well, because very likely in the beginning of aviation, if you would to query the aviation engineers on the current state of aviation, like what is we're talking really like primal planes, it might have been somewhere around that number, right? But with the introduction of safety valves, of mechanisms, of guardrails, of just deploying the aviation technology in the right way, we have come to the point where, minus the latest incidents that we're seeing, we're talking about the most safe way of travel around the world, right? So it's or one of the most safe way of traveling around the world. So I think that positions the importance of umanitek's success, because we somehow a little bit forgotten about the importance of this. I'm not even talking about regulation or like really strict rules. It's just unlocking the full potential of AI, of what it could be. So it's not just a few lone, tryout planes that like crash and burn a lot of times, but rather we have a system that makes society feel much closer as planes are today, the same way we can do with AI if we deploy it in the safe, and that safety breeds in a way innovation, right? We can be much faster at deploying it at a larger scale if we can do so in a safe manner. So I think that analogy is very much on point.
Yeah, I think, we're sitting here being involved in technology, either we want it or not, but we're leaning in. And I guess I'm not speaking for necessarily all of us, but I think we're technology optimists in that we can see the benefits, right? We can see that the enormous impact positive impact AI can have, right? cure for cancer, finding a solution to climate change, and on and on and on. And I'm assuming by this time, everyone uses it in their daily efficiency and their daily work task. I mean, the benefits are clearly there, right? So no one is, denying that. I think there are that just 10% chance that we might get it wrong. And that's where we are focusing umanitek on harm reduction and friction reduction. And I think that fight is now. And, the world is a better place now than it was
already
50, 100 years, 200 years. Or you go back as far as you want, right? We are in a very good era, right?
Hot showers are cool, man.
Yeah. Don't take that for granted, right? I mean, things are, many of you have probably read Hans Rosling Factfulness, and, things are good in terms of literacy, in terms of life expectancy, in terms, so many things, right? It's much, much better. So it's important to stay optimistic, but it's also important to remember that humanity, to get to where we are now, it wasn't a linear curve to perfection, right? There were many, many near misses where things could have gone very, very wrong. And I think, without dramatizing it too much, this is kind of the Manhattan Project, the Oppenheimer moment of our, well, you're a bit younger than me, but so I was going to say of our generation, right? It's now, right? Where I think someone said also very cleverly that nukes, nuclear weapons, don't create stronger nukes, but AI creates stronger AI. It's a completely new life form that we're dealing with, right? And the world has come very close to self-extinction many times in the past. I remember in my school years seeing the documentary The Day After. I think if you haven't seen it or don't know the phenomenon around that documentary, I think it came out in the late 70s. It really rose the issue of nuclear extinction and nuclear war in every home, in every parliament, in every government, NGO around the world. And I think this is the time where we need a similar documentary, a similar debate, a similar call to action. Where are we heading with this life form that we don't essentially control?
What are some sectors in general in the world where you would like to see umanitek pivot the most? First, actually.
Yeah, it's. I would say there are so many things to address at once, right? So it's important, as you say, to find that first vertical to attack. And I think just putting my investor hat on a little bit, I think on one hand, when you look at an investment opportunity, like you could look at umanitek, right? It's a new startup. But it's not really a new startup in as much as the first thing you look at is product risk or technology risk. Will the technology work? Will the product work, right? And I think I said a little bit about that earlier, right? Here we have OriginTrail, we have TraceLabs, we have a distributed knowledge graph technology that is in its 8th generation. The product works and the technology works. It's proven and it's deployed and it's rolled out and it's commercialized. So we're ready to take on, from a product technology perspective, pretty much any industry, any vertical in the world. And then it's the other part of investor risk that you often will look at is like, what's the go-to-market risk, right? What's the execution risk? What's the go-to-market risk? Do you have the money to deploy? What's your customer acquisition cost? What is the go-to-market strategy? And in this case, because we're partnered with Ethical, we have some real good go-to-market strategies. And I think in terms of specific verticals or issues to deal with, I think the issue of deepfakes is a massive one. Likeness infringement, so having yourself or a famous person, for example, appear in content or videos that you have not given permission for someone to monetize, for example. I think that's something very quickly out of the gate we will address. I think there's a lot of illicit content on the internet created by humans, but also by non-humans now at an exponential rate. We need, and Umanitek will address this out of the gate. We will have, I don't know if you've gone into some of the details of this earlier in the podcast, but we plan to essentially have a fingerprinting hash technology, a repository where you can check any content up against a repository of illicit content, so that you can know what you're looking at, if it's been approved, the provenance, who uploaded this content, do they have the rights to upload it, who's in this content, and so on and so forth. And that could be very relevant from anywhere to, from Hollywood to the music industry to content creators all over the world, right? But also if you're let's take a very fragile and a little difficult example. If you're a young adult, a young girl, for example, who have seen your photo being manipulated and spread around on a technology platform or in social media or at your school, how do you actually go about taking down that unwanted, maybe manipulated, illicit content, your photo, using your likeness or your photo? How do you take it down? And how do you support your child as a parent if that photo is up? And what we see is, of course, that once this content is out there, this problematic illicit content is out there, if it's taken down one place, it just moves to 10 other places, right? So the proliferation of it is with the use of AI, right, is so quick and so damaging. And once a victim, you're always a victim. It's like almost no way to remove this content. So that's what Umanitek will. That's where we'll start. We'll work on removing illicit, no copyright infringement or copyright infringement material. Remove it, take it down, and also try to find out who is behind it, and hold them accountable.
And that, of course, also includes law enforcement. In a matter of speaking, if you're going to track someone down,
law enforcement now is like to keep up with the generated content online is almost impossible, right? And if they confiscate a laptop or a hard drive or go through a cloud library, to go through that with a human or manually is nearly impossible. It is impossible. There's not enough law enforcement agents or officers in the world to do that at the rate that non-human bots and agents are creating content. So we need to deploy human-aligned, incentivized AI agents to do this, and law enforcement need this tool very urgently.
Yeah.
So one anecdote: when the three of you went to meet one of the internet platforms, one of the leading platforms in their domain, I also heard a story. I believe, Tomáš, you told me about a member of a law enforcement also telling you about her expectation, or even her expectations before the three of you, or just you met and talked to her about OriginTrail being useful for such a use case that Chris just described. So tracking and tracing illicit content, and then undertaking some corrective actions or preventative actions for such illicit content, let's say revenge porn, to actually appear online. And it was interesting to hear that even before, according to her own words, she saw OriginTrail being useful towards such an end. And then in unison, what umanitek does, it's not just a startup. It's a new kind of venture that brings together technologies, several fundamentals that are already working, that already can produce and are producing benefits and value for such a diverse set of users, from internet platforms to law enforcement and obviously internet users.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point from getting involved in this project from our side and from any side, right? Is that we don't have 3 years to develop the technology, right? We don't need to raise, $3 billion to build a platform. The OriginTrail is there, the TRAC token is there. I, as a layman investor, again, think of it, you've proven this for physical assets, right? You track physical assets, the provenance, there's safety and trust for physical assets. Now, to overlay that from physical assets to digital assets, which I think in a way is exactly what umanitek is doing, right? To track a photo the way you track a chicken, or track a video the way you track a railway component, right? It just makes sense. And the scale is just so massive, right? So take proven technology from physical assets, overlay it to digital assets, and bring in partners that have the right go-to-market strategy, that you can scale this immediately, right? Without buying customers or buying clicks. We have the problem is there. I think everybody gets it. The go-to-market strategy is super clear. We can launch it now with existing proven technology. So now we're really in that first prove that we have the user case, a real world user case, which are what I talked about: revenge porn, deep fakes, hallucinating articles, illicit content, and then show that we can take it down and then scale it to every country, every territory, every company, every home. So it's a big vision, and we need a lot of partners to do it, obviously. So the trick will be in the execution and showing that it works. That I'm very confident we can do.
Yeah, but I think that everyone here can agree it's a mission and a vision very much worth pursuing. So,
Did you cry? It's all right.
Are you crying?
The air is a little bit dry. Huh?
I was just thinking,
I dropped a tear.
I didn't think about it from that perspective, but yeah, hearing 𝗙cie speak as well in terms of like the steps, I feel that people aren't necessarily product aware, obviously, because umanitek is due to launch the product, but they're somewhat like solution aware. If you speak in general terms, people immediately kind of connect it. Okay, yeah, like this makes sense, like having this type of repository, that'd be cool. Or like being able to tap into it, that'd be cool. And so, yeah, I think that's a part of this. It's not only the readiness of the technology, but also readiness of people in terms of being aware of the problem, and also being aware that this type of solution would be very quickly delivering the impact that they're looking for. Is a very nice position in a way to be in. For umanitek to really go out of the gates kind of aggressively pursuing impact from day one. And yeah, I think that was one of the attractive things from our perspective of kind of jumping onto umanitek's vision as a co-founder, is that we saw that, yeah, like we start working on this now, like tomorrow we can start making impact literally when if put in the right context, right? So yeah, I think it's a very good point that solution awareness generally and literally across the globe as well exists. So it's about positioning a product in the right conversations, and I guess that's the fastest go-to-market we could have hoped for.
It's very easy to focus on the upside and how this can make your workday more efficient or the health benefits. But I think we're not advocating, I think, certainly not to slow things down, but just put in the safety valves, right? Put in the mechanisms that gives humanity a gives AI the incentive, I guess. I think, this quote, show me the incentives. And
Show me the money. No, sorry.
show me the track token and I'll tell you the outcome. Show me the incentive and I'll tell you the outcome, right? So we need to put these incentives in place for everybody. And my call to developers and investors and entrepreneurs alike is to look at this harm reduction, this friction reduction, and the safety valves. So that we get this right, because we can, and there's still time.
Chris, you mentioned developers being the core part of this entire venture. I would like maybe Brana to explain how exactly, tech speaking, the fingerprint and the umanitek, so to speak, program, or the entire venture, how is it going to work technically?
Thanks for the question. I'll try to stay high level because there's a lot of elements to the technology that is necessary to bring such a vision to life. But ultimately, some key elements that were mentioned, such as decentralization, we're solving a global problem. We cannot solve it without China, for example. So it cannot be a server somewhere. It has to be everywhere. Decentralization is key one, but the other key one is privacy. And OriginTrail, in my opinion, is uniquely positioned as a technology to solve these problems because it has this unique combination of decentralization and private knowledge management that's been proven in railways, like Chris said, and all the other companies and all the other use cases. So with the AI basically becoming the UI of the internet, it's incredibly important that all of these privacy elements are also part of the story. So if we're going to tag some content or remove it, or if that content is even allowed to be shared, is something incredibly important to be at the sort of the basis of the system possible to do. And what I mean here is that anybody is able to remain an owner of their content and then tag it in a repository. Sometimes even for legal reasons, what we kind of started talking about here, there's already being proof of concepts done in that case, that some content is not even allowed to be sent over the internet, like an illicit video, for example. It has to be brought on a hard drive. And then that hard drive might be huge. It might be terabytes of content. And then so how do you actually check for that? Well, you're not able to upload it because it's not legal. And then it's also very, in scalability sense, problematic. You have to do it locally. It has to be done privately and queried locally on that machine. So the fingerprinting technology that Chris mentioned actually enables that together with OriginTrail to be able to be queried locally, privately, without infringing any rights or laws, and detecting what content is actually problematic, previously flagged or not, flagged safe or not safe, or this or that. And that can be done today with OriginTrail. And we've proven it actually. And I don't know of other technology that can do this. It cannot
so it's
be
useful to have nodes on the edge, you're saying?
Exactly. This cannot be done just with blockchain. This cannot be done just with LLMs. It has to be this unique combination of knowledge graphs, LLMs, and blockchains together to make this work. So
I have a question, and maybe you guys can help explain it to me. But I think it also sort of plays into why now and why umanitek. So there's a lot of content creators and a lot of content aggregators out there. They all have data, and they have their centralized data. And I've been learning that none of them wants to share their data. Right? So Google doesn't want to share data with Meta. Meta doesn't want to share data with Reddit. Reddit doesn't want to share data with Twitter or X, and X doesn't want to share data with ByteDance, right? So is that the big part of the problem, that everyone has data? Some of it is the same, some of it is unique, but there's no way of comparing it or sharing it or checking, each other's data for illicit content or copyright infringement. And how does the DKG play into solving that?
Exactly. That's exactly the problem. So it's of course they won't share their data because that's gold. That's where they get all the value. That's where Facebook gets the value. We populate the data, and then all of that data is then used to, again, actually in a narcotic way, I would say, plug us into that feed or X or whatever type of centralized technology. First contact, yeah. You could even say that technology today is narcotic technology, and umanitek is fighting that as well. But what I'm trying to get to is that this won't change. Like, they won't be sharing their gold, anytime soon. But anyway, the problem will stay there. So we need to find, and we have found ways how to do that between big companies like those that you mentioned, to be able to actually search across their different content without revealing the content, which is one of the abilities of private knowledge assets in the DKG, and other technologies as well, such as perceptual hashing and in combination with encryption technology. So a lot of these different layers ultimately enabling what won't change to stay that way, which is that the companies will still not be sharing that data.
It's like if, I have my list of assholes, you have your list of assholes.
Yeah, we can share.
We'll share all list of assholes, but if I ask you just about one guy, you can let me know, is this guy an asshole or no? So like this, in a way, like it's how we can make it work, except that even I can encrypt my questions so that you don't, if someone would overhear us talking about someone, we would use encrypted version of their name, so they wouldn't be able to catch on anything. And I would just ask you in an encrypted way, and you would respond to me saying yes or no, but without me having to copy your entire list of bad people to my side, right? So, and you can then update it whenever you meet another one who fits the bill. And I can do the same. If I figure out someone's a good guy, I can take him off. So that way you always have the latest updated version of my list and I to yours without needing to exchange each other's full data, right? So this is where really umanitek can achieve a very, very aggressive growth, because it doesn't preclude for anyone to give up anything that they deem to be super important or super privacy infringing for them.
So it's providing transparency, in a way, sharing data without sharing data.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're saying.
Which is the exercise we've been doing with physical assets before, right? Yeah. Like you said. And now this just kind of copies out to, or overlays over the digital asset landscape.
It's really well said. I love the analogy, though. And
or my French as well.
Always. Brana, thank you for the explanation that I understood.
Oh,
I really did.
Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, and Chris, thank you for raising the privacy and the list question. It's unfortunately we are leading up to the end somewhere here. So, as one of my last questions, I'd like to ask our founders, and Chris included, so get prepared. A year from now, if you open a newspaper with huge font, there's a title saying something in regards to OriginTrail, Trace Labs, umanitek, you name it, doesn't matter, take your pick. What does it say, the title?
Okay, all right.
Go Giga.
All right. I think I have one. From corn to ... the world sleeps better on track.
I like that. Really good.
That's good. I have nothing compared to that.
It's enigmatic, but I think the chosen ones will get it.
Yeah, it's hard to top that. I'll just subscribe to it, but I guess I can do umanitek version of it, saying that the title would state umanitek, and then protecting, and then a significant percentage of uploaded content on the internet.
I love that.
And that significant percentage, I guess I'm not allowed to make too big of a kind of punt on it, but I think everyone can.
We don't have to talk numbers right now.
Yeah.
It's just
I had a similar thought too. I was like, the title is like 80% down, illicit content 80% down since last year. Chart in red.
Yeah.
The first time I'd be happy to see a chart go down also.
Yeah, it's a chart we want to see go down for sure.
Yeah.
Is that
I guess
80% down?
That's the one.
That's you're going with 80% down. Yeah.
Legal
like
illicit content go 80% down in the last 360 days.
That's a good one. I like that. Well, I have the benefit of going last, I guess. I can synthesize everything. So for me, it would be man versus machine.
Nice.
Umanitek puts humanity first.
Oh my
Or
God.
umanitek puts humanity in charge.
I got the
And that puts you
goosebumps.
second.
Nice one.
There you go.
Really
we know
good.
we know who to go to for some titles for the newspaper articles.
Yeah.
Well, that is, the newspaper still exists a year from now. But
I mean, that
that's
was
a
just a figure
different
of
rabbit
speech.
hole.
What
Yeah.
used to be newspapers.
What do you? Yeah, any kind of media really doesn't matter. But you know, it's there's a romantic thing in opening the newspaper.
Yeah, but any decrease of illicit content, I think 80% is realistic and a big goal. But removing any harmful content, you know, anything we can do.
Starting
is-
with one, for sure.
Yeah, one by one is. We need to cross this river quickly, but feeling stone by stone, I feel. And the good thing here is we can launch something meaningful and impactful very quickly.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been really something. It's been a pleasure and an honor to talk to you all. I guess this brings us to the end. And thank you again. And for everybody listening, also huge thank you to you as well, to our community, to our viewers. Don't forget to follow us on all social media, Discord, Telegram, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, Reddit, you name it, wherever you hang out. Feel free to check the description box below the video. Our links are there, both our socials and our OriginTrail socials. What else to say but stay connected with us, stay connected within the community, and stay on track.
Stay on track.
Right?